Okay, everybody, so tomorrow we're officially starting a little small unit slash lessons on inverse functions and functions in general. But how do we do an inverse function, basically, is what this video is about. Well, here we have a typical function, f of x, right? F of x. Now, remember f of x is really a y. It's a fancy name for a y. So how do we do an inverse function is, we want the function that goes backwards. The inverse function undoes the original function. It goes backwards. So how do we do that? Well, first step is always the same. We switch our x and our y's. So if you follow the green, notice the x there was originally a y and the y was originally the x. So that's always step one. You switch your x and y's. Step two, we got to solve for that y. Okay? So how about we go ahead and minus 3 both sides. Because we're going to get rid of that plus 3 there, right? So now we have x minus 3 equal to 3/5 y. And now, because this is a fraction, normally I would just do a reciprocal, but some of you guys don't like reciprocals. So let's do it in two parts, two steps. Here we go. How, for example, do I get rid of that divide 5? Well, let's go ahead and multiply both sides by 5. Now notice on the left here, guys, I'm going to have to do distributive property. So 5x is 5x. 5 times minus 3 is minus 15, equal to, now on the right side, what's cool is the divide 5 is gone. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And I'm left with just 3y. The only thing left to do is I'm going to divide everything by 3. This is using distributive property. So my final result is 5/3 x minus 5, 15 divided by 3 is 5, equals y. And the only thing else I can do is, remember, this y is the inverse function, and we refer to it as f inverse of x. We started with f of x, we end up with f inverse of x. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, number 16, let's go a little bit faster. Remember, that right there is really a y. So let's switch our x and y's. So x is going to equal negative 2y plus 10. Now I got to solve for my y. Let's go ahead and minus 10 both sides. So x minus 10 equals negative 2y. 10 minus 10 is 0. Last key step. Let's divide everything by negative 2. So x divided by negative 2 is simply negative 1/2 x. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is plus 5, equal to y. And this time y is g inverse of x, since we started with g of x. So that right there, guys, is g inverse of x. Pause the video if you need to. One more. What do we do first? That's right. We switch our x and our y's. What's our next step in this case? How about if we multiply both sides by 2? That gets rid of divide 2 right there, right? So let's see what we have left. 2x equals 6 minus y. What should we do next? How about we do a minus 6 both sides? That gives us 2x minus 6 equal to negative y. Don't forget there's a negative right there. And so we have negative y instead of y. Well, what can we do next? Well, we either times or divide by negative 1. Notice how I'm timesing, or actually dividing, by negative 1. We call that distributive property. Okay, so what's 2x divided by negative 1? Negative 2x. What's negative 6 divided by negative 1? Positive 6. Equals Negative divided by negative is positive y. In this case, the y is f inverse of x because we started with f of x. And so therefore, negative 2x plus 6 is f inverse of x. So guys, that's how you basically find the inverse of a given function. See you in class.